Today, every businessman, and Dr. Mutua said it, knows that there is a component of a bribe in a bid, in a tender. So it's not that you are overstating your price, it's inbuilt by everyone else. So it is institutionalized. I hope I'm communicating. It is not something you'll go back and pay. You'll be paid by the appointer, and out of that, you know that there was a component of a bribe, and you pay it to the person who is awarding you. When the day of reckoning comes, and especially with the current administration of the oversight agencies, that's why I have a lot of hope. All this will come out because the contractor is paid. Soon after that, and we are not very clever. The following day, the amount is withdrawn and put in another in the appointer's account. I mean, we are intelligent. You can trace how the money moved and so on and so forth. So in the end, you will be caught with those who influenced you to those practices. Let me talk about public service. Public service is a free service. Other than the things I have listed here, which you must pay for under the law, public service is free. It is supposed to be free. It is not free today, but it is supposed to be free. So you should not pay anything for it. Oh, I hope I was being heard. So you should not pay anything for it. You should not. But what happens today? You must pay something for it. You must. Let me use the word you must, because that's the order. I know a few people who haven't had to pay because probably they asked me to help them. I don't know whether that is ethical. Some of you here have called me to say, I'm stuck here, and this is what has happened. Is there anything we can do? And when I talk to that office, they fear the chairman of the Public Service Board, of course, and they will now fast-track it so that they are not accused of unnecessary delays. But for every service you get, you are expected to bribe. Public service is free. And that is the beginning point. And it doesn't matter how long you take, it will still be given to you. It might take longer, but public service is free. The other thing is this, that government employees like me when I was there, I am a servant of the people. I'm not a boss of the people. And this, I don't know where we lost this. Employees of government, including those PSs you hear speaking in very, very arrogant language to our people, they are servants of the people. How are they servants? In fact, they are called public servants. Who pays their salaries? It's the public, through taxes. So they are not supposed to be the bosses. But what happens? I'm sure you have noticed how our even PSs and very senior offices speak to us on the television. What language do they use? Have you heard them call people stupid? Have you or haven't you? I'm not naming names, but this is in the media. It's public knowledge. You have heard them call parents stupid, children stupid. That language, what are you telling the people you are leading? What are you telling them? That's the language they should use, isn't it? Yeah, if leaders, the so-called leaders, use foul language against one another, calling each other thieves or facts they have not established, and there is an agency for establishing that, what do you read in that? People are like their leaders. Many people copy their leaders. They dress like them, they talk like them, they write like them, and everything, because they are the leaders. And we put them there. We put them there. Nobody else put them there. Who did, if it's not us? So we have a responsibility, we have a role to ensure that whoever we put in that leadership position, especially in politics, is the person who will perpetuate the Kenya we want to see. The other aspect of that public thing is the role Dr. Mutua talked about here. The teachers, and the parents. Today, everyone is demonstrating against their bosses. Teachers are rioting, parents are rioting, governors are rioting. Have you seen governors riot and hold processions to the national government? So if they do that at that level, what are you telling those you are leading? What will you do with them when they start rioting? Will you be able to correct them? Is that ethical? This is what I'm asking. So it starts with us. I've talked about the tendering and the pre-qualifications and all that. It takes two to tango. There is no potential contractor who will come and introduce a bribe to you who has interest. It's we who introduce the idea that if you do this, and I'll do this for you. We are as guilty. The public are as guilty. So even the public, even ourselves and wherever we are, have a role to play in promoting ethical practices. And I want to urge us, those of us who are in public offices, and those of us who are looking for services which are free, not to be intimidated, not to fall easy prey of giving out. And I know we talk about it here, and we still do it. You deserve getting the service that you are seeking for. The MPs, the senators, the governors are elected by us, so they should be obliged to give us those services. So take courage. Don't be bowed. And I've already said that employees copy their leaders. If I was leading a corrupt board, every member of my board would do the same. But if I'm leading in a different type of ethical and practices and a manner of integrity, they will have to follow what I do. They will copy me. They will say, our chairman says. And I can assure you, you don't remain popular at all. In Chapter 6, which is Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is the chapter which deals with ethical practices, the Leadership and Integrity Act, we are supposed to carry ourselves in a manner that befits the office that we hold, that gives that office dignity. If you looked at the TV last night about the elections which have just happened, it was in the air, it is in the papers today. Some of the leaders, the way they behaved, they were holding stones ready to throw. Yeah. You saw that. Yes. These are people who have been senators. These are people who are going to be senators or MPs. These are people who are going to aspire for those positions next time. Are we still going to elect such people? I mean, you saw it. Is that? It's not imagined. It's not theory. You saw it. That is not conducting oneself in a manner that befits the dignity of that office. So we have no shortage of examples. I finally want to talk about something Dr. Mutua also talked about, the insensitivity of our people, of the people we lead, of the public. When those things that hurt us so much, the whole country, the whole public, gets so pained about such things as, you remember the ferry incident? Do you remember the Precious Talent School? Do you remember the mudslides and the floods, all those things in a day and era when we are in the devolved government? Who has failed? Who has failed? We should also take a role in this. Who do we cry to? You have heard that lady in the TV who keeps saying, nisaidie, serikali nisaidie. We might laugh about it. That is a war cry. And I want to remind you about our neighbors in the region. The example of Tunisia. Do you know about Tunisia? What happened in Tunisia? And the spread of that in the neighboring countries? How did the rebellion affect? It started with a street orange, fruit street vendor. I think that's the it started there. And how far did it spread? It's a matter of time, even here. If we don't have the Kenya we need, it's a matter of time. You just need a matchbox to strike, and when you know how small the matchbox is, not the matchbox, the matchstick. But how much fire can it light? It can burn the whole country. And I think we, and I will say this without any fear of contradiction, that if this country does not change to the country that we need, the fate of Tunisia, the fate of Egypt, the fate of Liberia, and all the rest of them, we have no immunity to that happening to us. I am afraid I can say that with great courage, because there's nothing special about it. And I know if the media is there, unless we walk this talk, and I'm so happy that there was a media airing today. I hope it happened. I've not been assured yet. That unless we walk the talk, if it remains in this boardroom here, it's ineffective. We must talk about it wherever we are, wherever we go, at every opportunity. And you will come out victorious. It's not longer the day when, if I said something here, by the time I get here, I'm in handcuffs. It's no longer that. I'm not lying. So we must be sensitive to the people that we serve, the people we talk about, so that these things, when they ask, serikali, nisaidie serikali, what are they? This is a war cry. That's what I'm saying. Don't you feel pity? When these kids lost their lives in the precious blood, how did you feel? It could have been one of you. You know, we live in denial. It's as if it can only happen to others. It can happen to us. What is causing the escalation of deaths, suicides, deaths of whole families, suicides, rapes, and all those things? Why? What is it? What is it? It's because we don't have the Kenya of our choice. We are responsible for that, and every one of us has a responsibility to be an agent of that change. No exception. We are not talking about other people there. We are talking about ourselves. Wherever you are, whatever you do, walk it. And we shall have the Kenya that we want. I seem to have exhausted. I thought it is a very long talk. But that is all I have to say. But let me finally say this, that my conduct of ethical behavior, I owe it to a very large extent to my Christianity, to my Christian upbringing by my parents. It is without effort. It is not something I struggle to. It's just that I'm not that type of person. It's just that. But when you are invaded by many forces which are persuading you and pressurizing you to be like them, you must withstand. You must stand your ground. I'll tell you another example. When we are getting, those of you who are my age and a little younger, like I can see many here, and we used to get licenses, driving licenses, what used to happen? Every single person got a license, had to bribe to get a license. Is that hearsay, or are you aware? I don't know what happens now. My license is 40 years, and at that time, my wife and my 4 adult children now got their licenses without bribing anyone. I always say there is one who came home with a license in an unusually fast manner. That one I'm not very sure about, but most of them knew that from home we shall not bribe to get a license. And that's the way we have moved. So we must talk to our children about ethical practices, being people of integrity wherever you go, wherever you do. The ELNET examination, what is it called? Evaluation. Please do it again. See whether we are still eligible, and I'll be happy to prove that it's worth being ethical in your behavior. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Please just hold on for a bit. Thank you very, very much for challenging us and asking us to take responsibility, personal responsibility. I know we have questions that we'd like to ask him, especially how he has survived in the public sector in Kenya. And, but what we want to do with questions is we want to do them at the panel session, which is after the health break. So I'd like you to use the notepads that are on your table. If you have any question directed to any speaker, please write it down. Write the speaker to who that question is directed to, and we'll use that during the panel session, okay? However, I do want to ask you one question just before you sit down.
Yes.
Could you share with us one or two personal experiences in your work in the public sector where you were faced with an ethical situation that you had to deal with? Just share with us and tell us how you managed to deal with that and survive.
I know, I was expecting that. I have been asked that before. Unfortunately, when you give a case like that, you cannot just, it's not just about yourself. Somebody else was involved. But I'll tell you the most recent. You are all reading about the Kasoba thing. Kasoba thing. Is that live in our memories? Yeah, that Kasoba thing was very trying for the board of the public service board in Kiambu is the one which recruits everyone who joins the workforce there. And it's also the disciplinary entity, the one which fires. That Kasoba thing, and I know these matters are in court for the lawyers who are here, but it's also in public domain. Had about 400 people who were supposed to be recruited, okay, to carry out work which is done by other people called casual workers. So what was the challenge of the board? To recruit those people. The process of recruitment by the board is specified in the law. You have to get a requisition from the user department, the department which needs such people. You have to advertise with those specifications. There will be applications. There will be a short list. Okay? Are you following the steps? Yeah. There will be a short list, and each one of those people will be interviewed. That recruitment did not fit into the framework of the recruitment that the law prescribes. So the board refused to do that. And we faced the biggest test of our time, because that is the point at which we would have left. But we said we would rather leave. You cannot engage 400 people to do nothing. There are no specifications. You cannot employ them. And there is nothing you are going to do. What happens? And it's not only in that case. Then the leadership there took it to themselves, and they hired those people at certain amounts of payment per day. But if there were 400, if there were said to be 400, and there were only 100 who were probably paid, they did some work in the cutting grass and cleaning the roads. You have seen some of them. There was so much abuse in that process that some of the cases which are still pending in court is in reference to that. So that was very challenging to us. We would have left. In fact, that was a turning point. That was a parting point with the employer at that time. But we stood our grounds. To remove a public service board in the counties is very, very difficult. And the consequences are very grave, because to recruit another board, even now, since we left, there hasn't been a board recruited, because as you know, the circumstances in that county, there's no substantive governor, and there's no one who can recruit anyone. So it's a very difficult thing to remove the board, and therefore we refused, knowing that, of course, we cannot be, it was not going to be. But you can be sidelined, and your salaries can be delayed, and things like those. But that's an example. I hope it's the kind of example you are expecting.